This recording is your video on the digestive system for your lab quiz this week. So I'm going to go through, just go down the list of the things that you need to know for next week or for this week. All right, so the first picture right here shows us the serous membranes that are associated with the digestive system. And I'll just go through each one of the pictures. If we look at this right here, you can see here's the liver, here's the spleen, the stomach is right here, and the small intestine and the large intestine over here. What we see coming off of the greater curvature of the stomach, we have some tissue. It's got some lymphatic tissue in it, some serous membrane-like material, and this is called the greater omentum. It means apron in Latin, and so, or Greek, one of the two. But it comes off the greater curvature of the stomach, and it extends over the top of the abdominal organs, digestive organs, to kind of help protect them and insulate them. Like I said, it does have some lymphatic tissue in it, so if you have some infection in the digestive organs, then it'll help protect the rest of the uninfected organs from that. There is a lesser omentum that goes up underneath the liver, and I'll show you a picture of that shortly. I'll show you right now. So here's where the greater omentum would hang off of the greater curvature of the stomach, and here's the lesser omentum on the lesser curvature of the stomach as it goes up underneath the liver. All right, now there are two sets of tissues that are associated with the serous membranes of the abdominal cavity besides the besides the pericardium. No, besides the peritoneum, we have what's known as mesentery and some mesocolon. So mesentery is the material. So if we think meso and entery, because enteric means small intestine and colon means large intestine. So this is the material associated with the small intestine is mesentery, and then mesocolon is the material associated with the large intestine. But you can see in both of these tissues that here is where we house the abundant vasculature that needs to go to and from the digestive system organs, small and large intestine, to facilitate absorption of the nutrients that we eat. So all of this material in here is mesentery, and then this is mesocolon, but it's all the same material. And then we have a diagram that will show the actual peritoneum and those structures that we've already looked at. So here in this green is the parietal peritoneum that's going to cover the body wall. And then the blue touching the organs, again, will be the visceral peritoneum. Then here is the greater omentum that comes off of the greater curvature of the stomach and attaches in up here on the transverse colon. And then here we have the lesser omentum that goes from the lesser curvature of the stomach up to the liver. And then here is the mesentery that you can see that's attached to all of the different sections, the tube as it's twisted within your abdominal cavity of the small intestine. So here is the mesentery, or we can call it the dorsal mesentery. All right, now moving on, we're going to go up to the mouth and look at the oral cavity. So here is the oral cavity, primarily filled with the tongue, and we can also refer to it as the buccal cavity. The hard palate is the bony roof of the mouth that, remember, is made out of the palatine process of the maxilla and the palatine bone. Then the soft palate is going to be this tissue that comes off to the direct food down into the esophagus and not back up into the nasal cavity. Notice that there are ridges on the roof of your mouth. The rugae of the hard palate, and what they're going to do is help as you chew your food and swallow, your tongue pushes against these rugae, and that helps to form the bolus of food that you're going to swallow down into your pharynx and down into the esophagus. The vestibule, sorry, excuse me, is this area between your cheek and gum. So there is your oral vestibule. The uvula, you know, is the tip of the soft palate, as we call it, the hanging down thing in the back of your throat. Then we have two sets of teeth in our lifetime. We have our our baby teeth. So these are our deciduous teeth up here. We have 20 deciduous teeth in all. And then we have our permanent teeth down here, and we have 32 of those. And so we have altogether 8 incisors. So we have 4 on the bottom, 4 on the top. We have 4 canines. We have 2 on the bottom, 2 on the top. We have 8 premolars. So we have 4 premolars on the bottom and 4 on the top. And then we have 12 molars. So we have 6 on the bottom and 6 on the top. Typically, people get this last set of wisdom teeth out, or molars out, which are the wisdom teeth. Okay, a tooth looks like this. And so the crown of the tooth is the part of the tooth that sticks up out of the gum. The gum, or the neck of the tooth, sorry, is surrounded by the gum or the gingiva. And then the root of the tooth is going to be down into the bone in an alveolus. So each socket that a tooth is found in is an alveolus-like alveoli that you find in your lungs. The outer layer of the crown, the only part of your tooth where you have enamel is on the crown, the part that's exposed. Underneath the enamel is the dentin. So this is what the majority of the tooth is made from. And then here we have cement or cementum that will hold the tooth along with the periodontal ligament, will hold it as a gomphosis into, or fibrous synarthrotic joint where we don't want any movement at all. Okay, let's go to your tongue. So here's your tongue. You have a variety of, I don't want to do taste buds yet. Well, I do taste buds. Okay, taste buds aren't shown in this picture. Taste buds are not the bumps on your tongue, but if you go back to exercise 26 in your lab manual, you'll be able to see the actual gustatory cells that are the receptors for taste, and that's where the taste buds are. They're going to be found around the papillae in the little crevices within your tongue to increase the surface area for being able to taste. The frenulum is the part of your tongue that holds your mouth down, holds your tongue down in your mouth. So here is the frenulum. We all have labial frenula, but here's the lingual frenulum. And then papillae are the bumps on your tongue. So we have 3 sets of bumps on your tongue. We have filiform. These are the tiniest ones of all. It just looks like a carpet on your tongue. Then we have the fungiform papillae, which are a little bit bigger bumps on your tongue. And then we have the valate or circumvallate papillae there in the back of your tongue, form a ring along the back of your tongue. All right, then we have salivary glands. We have 3 sets of salivary glands. We have parotid salivary glands that have ducts. That's what these green are, because these are exocrine glands. So the parotid salivary glands are here in your cheek, right anterior to your ear. Then right underneath the mandible, so here's the angle of the mandible, so right underneath that is the submandibular gland, and there's the duct of the submandibular gland, which is what you gleek out of if you know how to gleek. And then here's the sublingual gland, and it's got multiple little ducts here that come up underneath your tongue, and this is usually the one that is secreting during any dental work that you have, and it feels like your mouth is filling up with water. It's usually this sublingual gland that's responsible for that. Okay, so there are some of the other structures of the digestive system in your mouth area. So now we're going to go in and look at the gastrointestinal tract. So we're going to go to this picture, which just shows an overview of all the structures, and then I'll get into more detail as we go through each organ. So we're going to start out with the esophagus that's connected to the pharynx and is your food tube, and is going to carry the food that you swallowed down into the stomach. And we'll go through the parts of the stomach here on a picture just of the stomach. And then the stomach is going to connect to the first part, the first 10 inches of the small intestine, which is going to be the duodenum. Then the duodenum is going to curve around underneath the transverse colon and then become the jejunum. And then the jejunum will curve around and become the ileum. And then the ileum will connect to the large intestine right here at a pouch area called the cecum, where the appendix extends off of. And then we have the ascending colon, we have the hepatic flexure, we have the transverse colon, we have the splenic flexure, the descending colon, and the sigmoid colon, and the rectum, and the anal canal, and the opening is the anus. And so now I'm just going to go into each one of the sections that we see associated with those structures. So let's go to a view of the stomach. Okay, so as the food comes in, oh, well, first of all, lesser curvature right here, greater curvature here along the outer portion. Cardiac orifice is going to be this area, cardia, right there. So you can, oops, this cardia is the area where the esophagus comes into the stomach, and there's going to be a sphincter muscle right there called the gastroesophageal sphincter, which will regulate the passage of food from the esophagus down into the stomach. The fundus of the stomach is this large portion up here at the top. Then this is all the body of the stomach. And then down here, this region as it passes into the duodenum is called the pylorus. And we'll have a sphincter here as the pylorus goes into the small intestine or the duodenum called the pyloric sphincter. So there are those parts. Then if we look, I don't have a picture. We don't have a picture of just a good picture of just the small intestine, but let's go ahead and look at this view. Okay, so the stomach would be attached right in here because I wanted you to see a good view of the duodenum. So here is the duodenum, and it's going to receive products from the liver that have been stored in the gallbladder, and they'll come down through the bile duct. And then we have the pancreas with its exocrine function. So the digestive enzymes will all go into this pancreatic duct right here, and then it will meet up with the bile duct, and it will go into this ampulla and through this sphincter right here, and then it'll pass into the duodenum where the majority of digestion is going to take place. And then absorption will happen in the first segment after the duodenum called the jejunum, and then we have a second section after that called the ileum. Now, when we get down to the connection between the ileum and the large intestine, which we'll take a look at this picture right here. Nope, it's not in that picture. I'll look at this picture. So here is where the ileum is hooking into the cecum, and there is the appendix off of there. There's a valve or a sphincter that will regulate the passage of food from the ileum into the cecum called the ileocecal valve. So it'll be like the pyloric sphincter and the gastroesophageal sphincter, but it's right here between the ileum and the cecum. All right, then if we take a look at, oh, I know which view I wanted to show you. This one here. All right, so this right in here is where the ileocecal valve is. And so that's where the sphincter is. Here is the ileum coming in. Here's the cecum. Here's the appendix. Now, the large intestine is, I put that at the bottom. Well, I'll come back to that. Okay, so as we move up the colon from the cecum, then we have the ascending colon as it rises. Then it's going to take a bend at the liver, or on the right side, called the right colic flexure or the hepatic flexure. Then it's going to go across your body in the transverse colon. Then it's going to take a curve down, the left colic or splenic flexure. And then we have the descending colon and the sigmoid colon and the rectum and the anal canal. And the anus is the opening into that. And then surrounding the anal canal, we have skeletal muscle called the external anal sphincter, which we have voluntary control over. So I'll show you a picture of that in just a minute. Now we have a band of muscle that runs through, in addition to the other smooth muscle that we have in the walls of the colon. We also have this additional muscle right here called the tenia coli. Hanging off of the tenia coli, we have these little fat bodies called epiploic appendages. And then you'll notice that the large intestine is not a nice smooth tube. It's kind of has little sections to it, and each one of these sections is called a haustrum. So you can see one little segment right here, and what that does is as the feces are being dehydrated, it'll help smash them together and mush them together so that we can form the feces. Okay, so that's the rostrum. And then we saw the liver already. I'll just go back to that liver picture we looked at. Maybe, there it is. Okay, so here's the liver. We have a right lobe, which is much larger than the left lobe. And then we have this falciform ligament right here, which is going to hold the diaphragm down to the liver. Here's the gallbladder, which is going to store bile. Once it's been made by the liver, it'll go through the hepatic ducts and then into the cystic duct and then on into the gallbladder. And then here's the pancreas. And that's it. Those are all the structures that you need to be able to identify for the next quiz. Good luck.